never rests.
Counting careless in the sky. What a thrilling time to be alive.
Welcome to the Georgia Show. It is Sunday night. I'm Jake Rowe. He's Rusty Mansell. We're from DawgsHQ. We're going to talk about Georgia Scavenger Hunt weekend. A lot of news coming out of that, a lot of updates, a lot of chatter. We're going to talk about the month of June coming up, what that means for Georgia's recruiting board, and then on three rank the rest of Georgia's defense. And Jesse Simonton did that. He got the linebackers, the safeties, and the cornerbacks. We're going to discuss that. But Rusty, what a weekend it was, man. Georgia had a huge back to work, felt like a little bit for us. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, everything would have been laid off for a while. And, you know, we've obviously been talking about this upcoming weekend, but huge visitor list. And, you know, obviously no commitments from, you know, today or even yesterday, but it's one of those things that might pay dividends down the road.
There might be some commitments. I don't know if you never know when guys have done it, but I'll say this before we get started. I think we'd be crazy not to mention something that happened about 30, 40 minutes ago. Georgia softball down their final out.
Yeah.
Sydney Shambly, young lady, it's a senior out of Kennesaw, Georgia. And I watched softball. She bats kind of toward the bottom of the lineups all over the place, man. She absolutely just strokes one. Georgia's down their final out and find a way to beat a really good Liberty team, and probably are going to be in LA next weekend. And the Super Regionals play UCLA. So shout out to all those girls on that softball team. I think there's 10 seniors, which is unheard of. A lot of those girls came back using their super year, the COVID year. So congratulations to them, man. And this is a big one. This is a big one next weekend for them. UCLA try to get to the World Series out in Oklahoma or Nebraska, whichever one. I think which one? That's Oklahoma City is for the World Series for girls. But congratulations to them. But yeah, man, I'll say this: I was at Westlake High School. When was that? Westlake High Thursday night. I was at Thursday night. Obviously, Westlake High School with Travis Smith Jr. and Juan Gadsden Jr. Mike Bobo was there. James Coley was there. Stacy Searles was there. Just a loaded coaches from South Carolina there. Coaches from just a lot of schools there. It was actually, Jake, an inter-squad game, which was really cool because they ran it just like a game. They split the teams up. One team warmed up on one side. One team warmed up. They kept the clock, did a halftime. They went through team stretch to start, so they used that opportunity to do like a mock game. But I'll say this much, and I made a post on our board that I felt like I saw a Sunday player Thursday night, and I stand by that. Juan Gadsden, 6'7" 1/4", 355 pounds, senior offensive lineman. And Jake, I'll tell you this, that was as good as I've ever seen him play. That was as good as I've ever seen. That's as good as I've ever seen him move around to be that big. And you know, there was I would say a person with knowledge of Ole Miss there, and he goes, "Goodness, man, is that guy going to Georgia?" And I said, "I think he is." And he goes, "There's only 2 or 3, 4 of those guys per class, and it seems like Georgia's getting at least 80% of those guys." And Jake, Juan Gadsden, we both saw him at Under Armour. I don't think it was his best performance. I think he was a little bit out of shape at the time. But I'll tell you this, man, Thursday night, that dude, I mean, he looked like he was ready to play college football. He was mauling kids, getting on the second level. And Westlake's no damn joke. That's a really good football school, as you know. But Travis Smith Jr. I thought was really good. And I'll have more on him on Monday. He was in Athens actually this past weekend. We will see him at the Nashville On 3 Elite Series. Coming up about a week now, so we'll get a chance to really sit down with he and his family and kind of talk about where they are. But Westlake High School, man, 3 coaches at Georgia last Thursday night.
Juan Gaston's like one of those guys that you know, you see him all the time. Sometimes you got guys who camp out of this world without helmets and shoulder pads and all that stuff.
True.
And maybe their film doesn't look great, but you can kind of see some raw athleticism, and coaches are like, "Hey, I can get that out of them."
Yeah.
Sometimes guys don't camp very well. You put the pads on them and they just become a more physically dominating player. Sounds like that's kind of what he is. Some guys do both really well.
you and I both agree 100% here that we think Charles Power is the best evaluator in the business. We do. I don't care if he's working for Rivals 24/7. I don't care. I mean, we both know him. We both know his background. We both talk to a lot. He thinks that one his best position is going to be inside lineman, guard, and he moved him. But I'll tell you this. I mean, I left there Thursday night going, this guy can play tackle. This guy can play right tackle at Georgia. You know, if he goes to Georgia, he could definitely play right tackle, I think, for Georgia. And who knows if he can play left. But, man, he is so big. And I asked him in pregame, I said, Juan, because he looked like he had lost someone. I was like, Juan, what are you wearing now? He goes, I'm 355. I said, 355. Dude looked 325.
Yeah.
It's a good thing, man. That's a good thing. I don't want to overshadow Travis Smith Jr. because I'm extremely high on him. I think that Georgia's in a really good spot right now with him. Be interested to see where they are, but he's already announced he's got a July decision. He's going to visit Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, and Tennessee before he makes his final decision.
So let's get to Scavenger Hunt weekend. Juan Gaston was not there. Travis Hunter was there.
Travis Hunter was not.
Travis Smith. Travis
Hunter was there.
Yeah, right. Randy Travis was there. No, but so Travis Smith was there. Rusty, out of all the guys that were, and we're talking about 4 official visitors, a couple of receivers, the Bell kid, Marcus Harris was there. Zaire Addison was there. Out of those guys, who would you say Georgia helped itself the most with? Just early from reading through it and hearing what you're hearing, who would you say maybe Georgia helped itself the most with, or at least helped itself a lot with one guy?
To keep in mind, I'm gonna work the phones a good bit tonight as well, but I would say Marcus Harris had a really good.
Yeah. Okay.
I good visit. Didn't early on. I'm getting a little more information about him in his time in Athens this weekend. But I felt like Georgia's got some California connections on that staff. D Hill, who we know is David Hill, guy that out of Las Vegas has a lot of ties. He was kind of came on the scene when Darnell Washington. So I just think that that's an early name. I feel like some of the unofficial visitors. I'm going to probably write some stuff on them Monday, but. You can tell from social media that's a big deal to Georgia. Here's the interesting thing, Jake, and we hadn't really touched on this. You and I did we were just spitballing things like Georgia had some official visitors this weekend, but 95% of their players were not on campus.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the only 3 weeks of the year these guys have off, and they're finishing up one more week. That Tuesday after Memorial Day, they're starting classes.
Mm-hmm.
These guys got about 9 more days, and follow social media. You see Jalen Walker in Cabo. You see half the teams playing golf. God knows where they're playing golf because the greens they were on didn't like any greens I played. So they're not playing the other courses and I.
They're not at Valhalla. We know that.
Not there, but they're actually somewhere that and that's good for those kids, man. Get away, get out of football. You see these guys training. I think Dylan Bell was down with Carson Beck down in Jacksonville. You see that red carpet. That's where Carson Beck always throws in the indoor place there with his quarterback coach every time he's home in Jacksonville. I think I saw Dylan Bell. I think I saw Ryan Puglisi up in Boston. We posted that video. Man, if you have not seen Ryan Puglisi in that video, it's hard not to look at that video and go, holy hell, man, this guy, it jumps. I mean, it absolutely jumps out of his hand. And then the bigger picture there is how healthy was he going to be? Jake, you saw the video. I mean, this guy to me, he's ready to go. Like he's ready to go. As soon as they get back to Athens, he's full speed ready to go, which I think is very important for him during this summer.
Yeah. And, it's just, I don't know. I mean, obviously it doesn't hurt you not to have those players on campus, but it does kind of add a kind of a different element, for those guys because you don't have a bunch of player hosts. You don't have a chance for them to spend time around each other. But at the same time, there's maybe a little less clutter. There's a little less going on as far as, coaches having to run workouts or coaches having to be here or there. But I'll tell you what, man, I was looking at, some of the social media posts and, Palmer did a great job pulling some of those from like Instagram and, that's basically kind of all you got to go out off of in real time. And Well, it looked like Zaire Addison, the big offensive tackle out of Florida, was getting the red carpet treatment. I'm sure they all did, but it really looked like he was getting a lot of love.
So I'm kind of the recruiting guy. That's our boss. So I kind of noticed things. Two things I saw new, and I don't know what they're doing, but they were doing photo shoots. You look like they were in a plane. Number one, they're sitting in the back of a private jet, and that may just be a prop. But they got the old school starter gear, the old school 1995 starter gear, man, with the Georgia old school logo. And listen, I know it's a Nike school, and I know Nike pays millions and millions of dollars. So I don't know that we'll see that a second weekend. But you saw Marcus Harris actually posted pictures in that starter gear, which was really cool. And I posted it on our social media, and everybody was like, "Man, where can we buy that stuff? Where's the link?" And I'm not sure you actually can, because I know the story behind the white helmets. And what's funny about that, Jake, is they really only have 2 white helmets. and the reason they have 2 white helmets is because one of the recruiting staffers got with an equipment manager and said, "Hey, let's put some tape on one of those helmets right there, and let's put some G's, and let's see what it looks like for props, for recruiting shoots." And obviously it was a hit with fans. Obviously it was a hit with recruits, but I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but they only have 2 of those. So they're not, everybody wants Kirby Smart to break out the black, the black jerseys, and then the white on white with the white helmets at some point, maybe just, whatever, maybe for a spring game or something, but they only got 2 of the white helmets. So I hate to be the bearer of bad news on that too, but it looks sharp. The kids like it when they do those snow colored pictures, white on white, and they do the background. But I kind of like the things that, that's interesting. And here's one more fact that we talked about for a long time. Some guys were on their official visits. They got to do the photo shoots. That's why you didn't see Travis Smith Jr., Zayden Walker, David Sanders. That's why you didn't see any of those guys in Georgia gear. Now you will when they do their officials, but they could not do this, which I think is very interesting, because on official visit weekend, Jake, Friday night is the photo shoot. They do that when they go to the stadium. And it's interesting because you got like 4 official visitors, and then you got like 12 or 13 that are not official. So, Georgia's having to learn, everybody else is having to learn as well. What do you do during that time frame? Because you got kids that are dressing out and getting photo shoots and doing all that with the smoke, and then you got guys that are not. So interesting. They'll figure it out, but there's some different dynamics in recruiting, especially for official visits this go around.
I got to apologize if there's any background noise. I swear to God, everybody in my neighborhood likes to try to do their weed eating at about 8 o'clock on Sunday night. Yeah, so I hope nobody can hear it. But just to recap before we move on, I do want to bring this up. Official visitors for Georgia this weekend, and this was something that you would have known on Thursday over at DawgsHQ. We'll tell you after the fact. Bo Jackson, running back out of Ohio, Marcus Harris, Phillip Bell, both of those guys wide receivers from California. Harrison Bell, Zaire Addison was also an official visitor. Georgia also had CJ Wiley, Travis Smith, a couple of commitments, Christian Garrett, David Sanders, Isaiah Gibson, Zayden Walker, Trey McNutt's a 5-star prospect. They had some dudes, Brock Harris, a 2026 tight end. And listen, we've got updates on virtually every single one of those guys. Maybe Sanders might be the only one we don't have, but between Steve Wilson, Chad Simmons, Jake Roos, and Jeremy Johnson, we've got updates on every single one of those guys. And some of them are there was some stuff said in some of those updates, Rusty, that kind of open your eyes a little bit. So you might want to get on over to DawgsHQ and check it out.
I've been there for a year and 19 days. And I will say without a shadow of a doubt, this is one of the top 2 days that we've ever had on DawgsHQ. And I mean that from as far as a teamwork effort, important updates. I mean, I'm sitting there this morning on our group text, and we're literally having to hold stories because so-and-so, Steve just dropped this one, or Chad just dropped this one, and Jake Rowe's like, well, I'll wait an hour and put this one, and Jeremy's got 2. So listen, man, I'm going to brag on our guys. For $1, the offer we got right now, you don't have to look around. I mean, there's great, it's all time. There's great people in the UGA market. But I guarantee you this, what we did today, you better bring your A game going against us, because we're a very connected company, very connected site, and excited, man. But today was really good. We got some insider notes coming first thing Monday morning as soon as I get off here, I'll be working on that. I'll have you look at that. My go-to edit guy. So I'll have you look at those for in the morning. So
blind leading the blind, brother.
Well, yeah, you leave mine unedited, and we'll see what you'll see the Ray Charles of recruiting writing. I can assure you that. So, yeah, we had a hell of a day, man. Our whole team, from Jake Roos to Palmer, was doing some stuff this weekend. So, super proud of everybody today. That was a great day.
Yeah, it was all weekend too. Really, it really was. And $1 to get all that. You could it's not illegal, but if you do that, then you should probably share a jail cell with Scottie Scheffler. You should probably have to, for getting all that good information for $1 should be illegal, and you should have to spend 45 minutes in a jail cell watching Scottie Scheffler go through calisthenics.
Well, one thing we could talk the rest of the night, but they put my man in a jumpsuit. They gave my man a sandwich.
Somebody said the only man to ever get a plaid sport coat, a green jacket, and an orange jumpsuit to span 4 weeks.
I mean, what they gave my man an orange jumpsuit. I mean, can you imagine the thought process he was doing when he was changing in that, going, what in the hell is going on? The best part of that, I'll get off this subject. The best part was he said he was in the holding cell and he was looking across the room, and they had Get Up ESPN on, and they had pictures of him getting arrested. That was the only way he could tell time. And he's watching the ticker, and he got delayed. So he's like, I got a chance. I'm in jail. I'm sitting here eating a sandwich, boys. I got to go. Let's fingerprint this thing out. So, man, that was one of those surreal, like, is this really happening? This really happening? So crazy.
And I tell you what, we got endless entertainment out of the memes and everything from that. We were posting them in our DawgsHQ text thread. It was. I'm sure Scottie Scheffler is glad it's behind him, because obviously there's some reports that all the charges are going to be dropped. But it was a hilarious day for sure. And then obviously a hilarious day. Something bad happened earlier that day. There's nothing we can do about it. But it is one of those things. Sadness, but also, you can't do anything but laugh at what ensued after that. All right, Rusty, this is something I wanted to hit on because, we get hit with it all the time. And honestly, the only reason I put it in the show today was because I had somebody hit me up on Twitter asking me, it was one of those requested messages, and they asked me, they're like, hey, man, can you discuss kind of what Georgia's wide receiver board looks like? And I told them straight up, I was like, listen, there are a handful of guys right now that they would take if they wanted to commit, but that's just not happening. There are guys. I mean, we're coming into official visit season. Right. So, but by the time June's over with, that board is probably about, I don't know, anywhere from 75 to 90% solid, wouldn't you say?
By the time June's over with?
Yeah, because of all the camps and everything like that. I
would say 90% because, once the camps. So you look at camp offers, Scottie White was camp offer. Dylan Bell, camp offer. Arian Smith, camp offer. I could go on and on, but like those guys, basically they go out and see them and then they work them out. And, Matt Godwin, who's our go-to, I think he told the story of Dylan Bell. Dylan Bell was on a field somewhere else in Athens with some other guys, kind of you work on that field. We got the guys on our board right now. And they basically called Coach Monken and said, hey, there's a kid over here from Texas that's pretty damn good. So they send him over that field. He works out, and I think he comes back. I think he came back, Jake, a week later, and they wanted to make sure he wasn't a one-hit wonder. And he backed it up again, and they offered him on the spot, if you remember that. So you look at how important those camp evals are. But Scottie White, a young man that won't get into the subject of him, but I'll tell you this, one of the best, most just unbelievable kids on and off the field. And I'll say that for myself tonight, that I've ever met. And, he went to Georgia with his team Cass in the 7-on-7 and absolutely just went off. They pulled him off the field during the lunch break. They let him eat. rest, and they personally worked him out, and then they offered him on the spot. So these camp evals are so important. But you look at guys like C.J. Wiley and Travis Smith and those types of guys, and Talon Taylor. Those guys aren't working out. Some of them can if they want to, but those guys aren't working out because they've seen them enough, and they've been in situations over the last couple of years. But sometimes they do work out.
Yeah, or they'll be there for a team 7-on-7. You'll get a look at them then.
7-on-7. Yeah, that's a great point. So they'll see these guys some fashion, some way. Kirby Smart is not going to offer somebody without tape. Now, I was wrong in what I thought happened with Ladd McConkey. I know I've said this wrong on the radio. I may have said it wrong here. He never worked out for Georgia. He never worked out in Athens. Now, what they did see was the tape from the Nike opening in Nashville that year. It was the last year of the Nike opening. They watched the tape of him work out every single rep. And then Kirby went to watch him play basketball. So he did get a chance to evaluate him in person. But for Ladd McConkey, he's one of those rare ones. Not only is he rare there, he did not work out for Georgia camp. He did not camp for them, but they did see his workout tape, and that's kind of what got him on the board.
And his senior season, that played into the fact. I mean, say every now and then, it doesn't happen very often, but there's a kid, maybe two, every couple of years that they turn it on during the senior season, and you're kind of like, man, we got to go after this kid. We got to make a move for this guy. And that senior season does matter. Junior season is the most important. I mean, it's across the board. You talk to any coach, you talk to any evaluator, talk to our guy Joe Wyndon, who worked with National Preps. Now he's kind of the general manager over at Georgia State with Dale McGee. He'll tell you that junior film means everything. But every now and then there'll be a kid that does some stuff in his senior season that you're kind of like, you just can't ignore it.
Rashad Bateman at Tift County.
Yeah.
Wound up being a first rounder. Ladd McConkey was almost a first rounder. When Ladd McConkey and North Murray beat Calhoun that night, changed everything for him because he said it. I've seen it in interviews. Hal Lamb, a longtime high school football coach here in Georgia. His father, Ray Lamb, worked on the Georgia staff in the 90s, longtime high school coach, state championship at Commerce, all those things. Hal Lamb called Georgia and said, we could not stop this kid. I don't know what y'all are waiting on, but you should offer him. We could not stop him tonight. I think North Murray beat him like 48-44, something crazy. And Ladd McConkey was all over the place. So, it's you never know how things are, but that's right. Senior years still can matter for these players.
You bring up Ray Lamb, and I remember going to those youth football camps as a kid, and he'd just come out there on that bullhorn saying how lucky you are to be at the University of Georgia, just over and over and over again. I saw him on the sideline a few years ago, threw my arm around him, and he just looked at me and goes, I don't know who you are, but you must have been one of my campers back in the day. And I said, man, you pretty sharp. That's good. Figured it out, and had a good conversation with him. That was fun. So, there's no doubt about it, man. Those camps mean a lot. It's just getting a chance to get the guys in person, see them move around, see how they compete. That's another big aspect too, is like, are they just out there going through the motions? Hey, listen, I remember a kid who signed with Auburn years ago. I'm not going to bring up his name, but there was a kid who signed with Auburn years ago, and Georgia fans were livid that when Jeremy Pruitt was there, he would not go after him. He would not make a strong move for him. And I remember being at that camp, and I was like, man, I'm looking at this thread right here, and these Georgia fans are just incredulous as to why you're not going after this kid. And he goes, man, just go watch him for 10 minutes. He's not competing. Yeah. He doesn't want to compete. Like he just will not compete out here.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to do that? And so I was like, man, that's a good point. That's a good point. So that matters to them too. They like to see the demeanor. They're checking every single. Honestly, Rusty, it's like the NFL draft in a way. It's kind of like or the combine. We're looking for a reason not to recruit just as much as a reason to.
I tell people that all the time. They're looking for a reason not to offer. Please give us a reason not to offer you, because we got 5 kids on this board. We got 2 spots, and we need somebody to help us take you off of that board. So.
I can't remember the number, but it's like Chuck Dowdle told us on Bark After Dark. Kirby came in, had a bad look on his face after a game, and said, you all right? And he goes, I got 11 kids over there from the visits. I want to take all of them, and I can't take any of them. So that's the hard decisions have to be made, man. And they're looking, they want you to give them a reason one way or the other. They're looking for an indicator like, hey, make it a no-brainer for me to offer you, or give me a real good reason not to offer you. All right, Rusty, me and Palmer have been breaking this down mostly, but I want to go ahead and get this off the board and wrap this series up. Jesse Simonson, this is one of my favorite off-season series every single year. I've said it before. I think Jesse does a fantastic job. He ranks every single position unit in college football top 10 across the board. Georgia was in the top 10 in all of them. I don't know if it was the only school in the top 10 in all of them, but they were definitely in every single one, quarterback to safety, everyone. And except for two position groups, they were in the top 5 of everyone. Those two position groups were wide receiver, and one we're going to talk about tonight is cornerback. Not that Georgia's not talented enough to be a top 5 school at cornerback. They just have a one-year starter coming back, and they're trying to figure out who their other starter is going to be. But Rusty, it was 3 at inside linebacker, number 3, or 3 at linebacker, 3 at safety, and number 8 at cornerback. I just want to know, do you think you agree with those? Would you find a way to pick at either one of those, any of those 3, if you had a chance?
I don't know enough about the entire country yet because I'm a magazine geek. Hold on a second. See this? I get all these magazines right here, and you'll see these. I got a whole stack of them. I got stacks of these magazines from 1990. My first one here is a Garrison Hearst, somewhere here. So I spend my entire summer. I still read magazines, and I still read Phil Steele and all those. So I know more about the country as a whole. I kind of feel like he's probably close to that. And the reason I think on cornerback is, there's some inexperience there. Obviously, you lose a guy, and you're trying to figure out who is going to start there opposite of Dalen Everett, most likely. And so,
and I will say, Rusty, I'll stop you here. He does wrap star into the cornerback position. Okay. He kind of calls the star position a slot corner. So then Georgia's replacing both of those, 2 or 3.
So you got some guys there for that. So I feel like, that's probably where Georgia is. I do say this. That I do think before it's over with, I don't think that KJ Bolden is getting evaluated probably right now, and he shouldn't be. If I'm Phil Steele, if I'm Athlons, like Dylan Brooks talks about right here, because they don't know enough about those guys yet. But I think about when you look at safety and you look at DB for Georgia, I think that KJ Bolden, by the time we get into, say, mid-October, is going to be a guy that I think, personally, my opinion, is going to be playing real minutes for Georgia. I don't know how all this is going to play out and how things are going to go, but he's gained weight. I feel like this guy's special, and everything I've heard, he has been lights out in the film room, never late for a meeting. Like, he has been who they kind of thought he was. So, but corner's going to be interesting. Inside backer, I think Smile, CJ Allen, obviously Raylan Wilson, all those guys, Jalen Walker playing a little bit of both. I don't know what he weighs, but those pictures on Instagram yesterday, Jalen Walker, he hadn't missed a lot of workouts. I can tell you this. So, I feel like that probably he's right to get to the point. I think I understand the questions for Georgia at DB there, but inside backer and those places for Georgia, I think they're rock and rolling. Malachi Starks is obviously going to be one of the top 1 or 2 safeties in the country.
Yeah, and I first of all, I do want to hit on this right here. Always waiting for the Athlon to drop every summer. In case you didn't know, might be revealing some news here. You read the Georgia rundown in Athlon every year. That's your boy putting it up there. I write the Georgia preview for Athlon every year. So they give me a free magazine and $5 and I hook them up. So that's kind of the way it goes. So me and Athlon have a good relationship. What I liked about it, Rusty, and I think Jesse's right on all counts. I mean, I do think that by the end of the year, you might be looking at a top 5 cornerback unit if that cream rises to the top in that competition between, Julian Humphrey, Ellis Robinson, and Daniel Harris. And I was looking through some stuff. I took some video at the Orange Bowl, and I was looking at some of it was the cornerbacks doing some stuff, and I was deleting some, trying to make some space on my phone the other day, and I started watching that video, And I was looking at Daniel Harris, and I'm just like, there's just no damn way this cat just plays DB. Like he looks like a wideout, like a big wideout out there playing DB. And so I think the cream has a really good chance of rising to the top there at cornerback. And I'm not ruling out the possibility that one of those guys could maybe unseat Dalen Everett at some point. I think Dalen Everett's a good player. I don't know if folks realize this. Dalen Everett, when you look at targets and catches and yards given up and yards per target and stuff like that, had a better season last year than Travis Hunter did in those aspects. Not saying Travis Hunter's different. All right, he's a big timer, but still, Georgia's just that talented at cornerback. So I could see that coming through. It just depends on how good those guys want to be. I thought it was really, really insightful for Jesse to kind of get out in front of it a little bit at inside linebacker, because I thought while we saw flashes from CJ Allen last year, and we know how good Raylan Wilson's going to be and in the future, and the fact that Smile Munden really took a step back last year, but a large part of that was injury, because we saw him at the end of the previous year, and man, he looked great. He was one of the best linebackers in the country at the end of that 2022 season. He was a stud. But I thought it was pretty insightful of him to kind of get out in front of that and kind of point to the fact that Georgia's injuries in 2023 made them a better linebacker unit in 2024 because of all the snaps that CJ Allen and Raylan Wilson got. And, those guys, normally a guy is a junior before he starts to get the amount of snaps that those guys got last year. And here we are looking at those guys playing big minutes as sophomore. And obviously I know how big of a fan you are of CJ Allen.
Love CJ Allen, love Raylan Wilson. I think potentially both could end up being first rounders. And I'm still say that, when it's all said and done. And you're right, Smile Monday goes down, Pop goes down with a hand. I mean, next thing you know, you're having to play these guys. Smile did all he could against Alabama, played as many snaps as he could against Alabama. Raylan Wilson had been banged up, had to come in. So you're right, those guys got a lot of experience. Anytime you play Alabama and Mercedes-Benz as a true freshman, you have to take away a lot from that. I know Raylan Wilson got picked on that play, and that's part of football. You know what I mean? That's part of football, and that condensed. I guarantee you next time he sees that condensed formation in the red zone, he's going to know, I'm not getting freaking picked right here for this running back. And that just comes with territory. You live and die and learn and get reps and those types of things. But, man, those guys, along with Jalen Walker, that whole room is special to me.
There's no doubt about it. And Dylan Brooks points out Jalen Walker be the unsung hero of that defense. Jalen Walker actually got, with Michael Williams kind of moving to edge, Jalen Walker really got a chance to hone in on inside linebacker during bowl practices. And I thought the way he played inside linebacker in the Orange Bowl was a lot better than I had seen him play inside linebacker before. He struggled some against Georgia Tech. They kind of went right at him a little bit with the run game with some stuff, but man, he did not struggle at all in that Orange Bowl. Rusty, I think that about wraps it up for us. You got any parting shots for these folks before we send them off and let them and wish them a good week?
No, like I said, congratulations to Georgia softball. We're not even we hadn't even really begun to dig into this past weekend. I know we got a holiday weekend coming up next weekend as people get kind of summer starts, and everybody's got a lot of graduations, the end of the school year deal. I know my whole calendar's full this week with, my God, they do fourth grade ceremonies. You got third grade kickball championships, second grade painting championships, kindergarten nap championships. I don't even know what we're doing anymore. I'm surprised we don't give away rings for eighth grade graduation anymore. It's the damnest thing I've ever seen. But thank you to all the teachers and everybody that helps our kids year round. And if any of those guys are listening, and Diamond, Brett brings up a really good point. Georgia baseball starts their single elimination tournament down in Hoover. And they play LSU, and unfortunately, which is crazy, LSU is the higher seed, haven't played this year. So Georgia's been on a tear. If they'll go down there, Jake, if they'll go there and win like maybe 2 games this week, I feel like they're going to be a national seed, which would be a really good spot for them to host for a while in Athens. See how far they can get this thing too. So the spring sports are finishing up strong. I think right now, maybe I'm wrong, the tennis team's playing for national championship right now, maybe. We got Palmer be covering that for us right now, but I think they're playing at Oklahoma State for the national championship tonight. So good luck to all the spring sports finishing up. Everybody have a safe week. We're going to have a ton of stuff. I'll say this, next weekend, I don't think Georgia is scheduled to host anybody. But after that, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 massive weekends in a row. And if you're not familiar with On 3, we have the biggest recruiting event of the year, period. Nothing, no game, nothing is bigger than what we do in Nashville. And that'll be a week from Tuesday. We will have the top 50 players in the country with their families in Nashville. 2 nights, it's almost like an official visit. We'll have exclusive content, sit down. I can tell you right now, when I left there last year, I knew Ellis Robinson was going to Georgia. I sit there with his parents one night and Ryan Puglisi's dad. I sit there with all those guys at a social hour, and I just listened to those guys talk. And I'm telling you right now, I knew the Ellis Robinson. I knew Miami was going to make a run at him. I knew all these schools will make a run with him, but I felt like at the end of the day that guy was going to Georgia because he trusted Kirby Smart. He wanted his son to play for a DB coach. I knew that's the first time Ryan Puglisi had told me. He basically told Ohio State to quit calling. Yeah, I said, what's been the hardest thing? He's like, I just called Ohio State. He said, man, quit calling. Like, I'm done. I'm going to Georgia. I don't care what else is going on. I'm going to Georgia. I don't care who they sign. So we'll have all kind of content like that coming out in the next 10 days, which is fun to do.
Absolutely. And probably not going to have a Sunday show next Sunday. Would it be a holiday weekend and everybody else got everything going on? But we'll be back with you soon enough. We'll be back later on this week with a show on Tuesday. We got Bark After Dark coming tomorrow night. Got a couple of guests here to finish out the month of June. And hopefully, Rusty, the Braves will get it on track at some point. They're getting their eyes beat out right now. But ultimately, y'all have a great week. And come on over to DawgsHQ if you're not there already. Take it easy.